I want to thank you all for being here today at Davis County Jail. My name is Paul Child. I am the police chief with Centerville Police Department. At this time, I want to specifically draw attention to the victims and remember that we have real victims that are involved in this case that have been traumatized and that are grieving. I want to make sure that we never lose sight that, in fact, there are people who are victimized in this sequence of events that started on May 10th. Today, Flint Harrison and his son Derek were transported from Wyoming by Centerville police officers with the assistance of several other agencies. Just a short time ago, they were booked into Davis County Jail on the arrest warrants that are active on them. This has been an intense and complicated case involving several agencies. This is an ongoing investigation with much more work to be done. All of us in law enforcement want to make sure that we do the best possible and most professional investigation that we can possibly do, so that those who committed these crimes will be held accountable. We are asked if there is a connection between UTA involving Mr. Ricks. The only thing that I want to say in regards to that is that it would be an amazing coincidence if they were not. But we in search of the truth and in search of what actually happened here. On May 10th at 6:03 p.m. we received a frantic 911 call which began this investigation. Since that time, hundreds of hours of investigative work to do this and related cases. This past week we had the Police Week. On Sunday we honored those who have fallen in the service of their communities and law enforcement community. I want to draw attention to the Brotherhood of Police. Behind me are several of our partners and others that were involved in this investigation and this effort. We stand together. There have been other agencies that have just thrown everything at it, every request. There was no request that was denied. I want to especially recognize the U.S. Marshal's Office, who was with us right at the very beginning and has been there until today and continues to be. Bountiful Police Department supplied multiple detectives to Centerville Police Department initially. We received assistance from Farmington Police Department as well. We appreciate their assistance. Of course, we need to recognize the Sublette County Sheriff's Office and the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office. The Department of Public Safety has stepped up. Utah Highway Patrol and the Department of Public Safety has done an amazing job. They've thrown a lot of resources and assistance to this case, and we appreciate their help. I want to recognize the UTA as well and the FBI. They were invited but weren't able to make it to this press conference. And the many others who have been involved, the citizens who have been involved as well. It's been a very complicated and strenuous and stressful case for all involved, but all of the law enforcement involved in this case has stepped up and given it our all. So with that, I want to turn some time over to Lieutenant Steenblick for a few comments, and then if you have some questions, we cannot talk at all about the homicide investigation or the investigation regarding Mr. Ricks's, the body of Mr. Ricks found in Wyoming. We can't comment on that, but if we have questions that we can answer, we'll be happy to answer those. Thank you.
A lot of questions were asked as why do we bring both Flint and J. Harrison back to Utah. The main reason for that is that our case is almost complete. We had our investigation ready and had already filed charges. Warrants of arrest were issued for both of them. They had waived extradition, and we were sitting on a timeline of bringing them back to Utah within 10 days. Detectives were already in the Wyoming area assisting with the investigation of Mr. Ricks. and trying to locate the truck and additional evidence and supplying information to the authorities in Wyoming. A decision was made after consulting with everyone involved in Wyoming that we would move forward with the extradition and brought them back to the Davis County Jail. This will give the Wyoming authorities time to complete their investigation, to get all of the information they need, and to compile the physical evidence. They won't have to worry about filing any charges right away and can concentrate on their case. They'll be here in the Davis County Jail and hopefully won't be going anywhere until Wyoming is ready to move on them. Take any questions that I can answer.
Talk more about the truck found today.
I was driving back from Wyoming when that happened. All I know is that they located it.
Do you know if they located any weapons inside?
I have no idea.
You know what district attorney will be pursuing charges at this point?
Which attorney?
Yeah, which district?
No, it's still to be determined. There'll be a lot of conversations in regards to that.
It's going to rise to federal level?
I don't know.
If it is connected to KRIX, is it possible that the Salt Lake County District Attorney will prosecute?
I don't know. It all depends on several things that are still under investigation, and I just don't know.
Lieutenant, the chief said that it would be amazing if they weren't connected in somehow to the death of Kate Riggs. What, if anything, are local investigators doing to try to get some definitive answers?
We're providing all of the information that we developed in our investigation to Wyoming. So everything that we know, timeline, where they were at, what they were doing, tracking them, trying to locate them, all of that information is given to Wyoming to help them take the investigation from that point into Wyoming and move forward.
So can you say, other than a very coincidental timeline, do you have any other pieces of physical evidence or any other evidence that would link the two crimes together right now?
I can't talk about it right now.
Are there any difficulties in linking investigations in Wyoming, possibly Salt Lake City, here? What kind of difficulties come with that?
Just coordination. It requires an immense amount of communication and partners, and we've developed those relationships over the last week, and I think that will take place.
Lieutenant, what can you say about that timeline on that point?
Right now, we just know that they were in the South Salt Lake area on Wednesday, and that's about all we can say right now.
When did you guys lose, or when did they go off the radar map?
About that same time,
Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon?
Wednesday afternoon.
Now, what about the people that helped? We understand there were two people that may have been helped. What can you say about that?
But that's still under investigation, that we'll be discussing that matter further.
Any possible charges?
There is possible charges.
Is Mary Kay Harrison the ex-wife?
Understanding is that the Department of Corrections is going to go and pick her up sometime next week.
So if this were an amazing coincidence, if the Harrisons were not linked to Kate Riggs' murder, do police now have a suspected timeline or circumstance that led to this? Do you think that they commandeered the truck, forced him to drive to Wyoming, murdered Mr. Riggs, drove the truck to its current location, or what is the theory now that police now have?
That theory is the Wyoming investigation, and I'm going to let them speak to that.
Do you have any concerns about not getting the word out sooner related to the incident in Centerville, and that had you, perhaps Mr. Riggs and others might have treated these two differently?
There's a lot of what ifs. We don't know what would have happened. We've all said what if during this investigation as we've talked about it. I don't know. There's no way of answering that question.
What about the Harrisons? Have they been interviewed?
They haven't been interviewed, no.
Is that sure?
At some point, that's all dependent upon them, whether they'll speak to us or not.
So they've refused to speak thus far?
So far, they have refused to speak. The only information came from Flint when he first surrendered to Sublette County. He provided some information about where DJ may have been.
Is that a refusal because they don't have an attorney yet? Is that are they waiting to get an attorney?
Correct.
After speaking more with victims of the case up here in Centerville kidnapping, do we have any more reason to believe that the intention was to kill them, or do we know anything further about that?
We don't.
What charges will you be booking them?
The 2 original warrants that were issued last week, the 5 counts of aggravated kidnapping and 5 counts of aggravated assault.
Can you tell us anything more about Flint and DJ's history? What kind of guys were further contacted in the past?
We've had contact. Centerville was the agency that led the investigation for the original rape charge that was later reduced for Flint Harrison. My understanding is that DJ never has a criminal record.
We understand that Flint and DJ were brought back in separate cars. Have they been kept away from each other since their arrest? Have they been allowed to talk to each other?
They have not. They've been kept separate the entire time in Sublette County Jail as well as the line here.
Can you tell us the reason for that?
We don't want them communicating so that it preserves the investigation.
Were there witnesses to the interaction between Mr. Riggs and the Harrisons?
Not that I know of. I don't know.
Why is this case predominantly in Wyoming when the incident happened in Centerville and really they were just found in Wyoming but the crimes were committed in Utah?
Well, the most serious crime now is the homicide investigation, and that body was located in Wyoming.
So the homicide.
That's the reason why.
Okay. But because he potentially may have been abducted in Salt Lake County, could it be a possibility that there would be charges filed here in Utah?
Yeah,
as
so
well?
you're talking about several different agencies, 2 different states, different counties, different prosecutors, and that will all have to be sorted out by the prosecutor's offices.
If this kidnapping does rise to the federal level, and I've spoken to attorneys that said it probably will because they escaped across state lines, so that would raise it up to that level. Even if the murder did happen in Wyoming, which we don't know yet, would it still be prosecuted here in Utah since it's all one big federal pot?
I'm not the legal expert on that one. I don't know. One more question, then we'll end.
What might happen if murder charges are filed in Wyoming? Would the murder charges then trump the kidnapping charges here? Would they be sent back to Wyoming for prosecution first?
That will be worked out between the prosecutor's offices.
Lieutenant, just one final question. You did this from the very beginning, taking it to this far to Wyoming. What are your thoughts as a police officer, a former detective? I mean, this thing is just taking so many different turns.
This is like no case I've ever worked. It's been very difficult. We put in long hours. It's amazing what people will do, and we're going to take a little bit of time and reflect, and then get back to work.
Thank you for your questions. Of course, if we have new information that we feel like we need to release, we'll release that as soon as we possibly can. Thank you.